Oh my god. That doesn't even describe how I am truly feeling right now. I am feeling many things right now. I am feeling depressed. I am feeling frustrated. I am feeling anger. I'm feeling everything possible when it comes to Batman Arkham Trilogy for the Nintendo Switch. This has been one of my most requested games to come to the Switch ever since 2017 when the console came out. This felt like one of the last big third-party games we were missing on the Nintendo Switch. And when this game got rumored 2 years ago to come to Switch, I got so excited. And to see that rumor come true in June when Nintendo themselves announced that Batman Arkham Trilogy was coming to the Nintendo Switch, and with the gameplay footage that they showed, it looked so good. I was so excited. I knew we were in for a treat. I couldn't wait. I saw it got delayed, but I was like, you know what? A delayed game means it's going to be a good game, because a rush game is forever bad. It's like the Miyamoto quote. But yeah, this is garbage. This is absolute garbage. We have a lot to talk about with Batman Arkham Trilogy, so I guess let's get into it. My name is MONADO Max, and today we're reviewing Batman Arkham Trilogy for the Nintendo Switch. One thing that's important to highlight when we talk about these games is that Warner Brothers themselves, when this game was announced, said that these are native Switch versions out there. So these aren't even Switch ports anymore. These games are designed specifically for the Nintendo Switch, because a lot of people was worried that this was going to be the Return to Arkham remasters, and those were not the greatest. They had problems. These are their own versions of the game. These are made specifically for the Switch in mind. And if we're supposed to go with what the rumor said, this has actually been in development for 2 years. Over 2 years. So this has been getting a lot more development time than most Switch ports out there. Not to mention, Warner Brothers has a really good track record of Switch games coming to the Switch. They only had one bad release this year, and that was Mortal Kombat 1. So to know that they were the ones that did this, and the company that they hired to do the Batman Arkham Trilogy, Turn It Up, that's the company, they actually have done a lot of good stuff for the Nintendo Switch. Turn It Up has done the It Takes Two port. They did the Tony Hawk port. They did, what else did they do? They did The Brothers. We actually thought that game was so good on Switch that we put it in our top 10 third-party games video. And they've done many more games out there. So they hired a good company to do this Switch port. And I'm going to keep calling it port because I'm used to saying port, but they're not ports. These Batman Arkham games, no matter what they try to tell you, these are not ports. So keep that in mind when we're talking about each game. I'm going to start with Batman Arkham Knight, because that is the one that this video is going to be talked about the most, because this is the one where all the problems start happening. Batman Arkham Knight is obviously one of the coolest, most beautiful looking next-gen games out there. When I say next-gen, it's not even next-gen anymore. This was the first game that I played on my PlayStation 4, and I still think that that looks like one of the most beautiful games out there, even with the PlayStation 5 around. I'll never forget the opening of Batman Arkham Knight, seeing how crazy, how beautiful, how horror, I guess is the word, how scary it was at the time as me as a kid. And then when I played that on Nintendo Switch, I did not feel the same way. The opening looks so bad on Nintendo Switch, it's actually crazy. The visuals do not look good of Batman Arkham Knight, which I knew we were going to take a hit. I knew it was not going to be groundbreaking like it was on the PlayStation 4, but the visuals of Batman Arkham Knight seem very weird to me and doesn't make sense to me, because if you look at some of the models out there, like let's look at Batman himself. Batman actually looks alright. He looks pretty good, I feel like. But then if you look at some of the other character models, it looks like they didn't even take the time to make the character models or even updated textures on there. It looks like there was nothing done to these models other than Batman. And when you change outfits for Batman, you can see differences there with how much they've done with the models. It just seems like the basic Batman Arkham suit was the only thing that they really updated to look somewhat good on Switch. The shadows that are placed throughout this whole game and textures are so noticeably placed poorly. I don't know what they've done here. Like, again, I know that this was going to take a hit, but I think that this game can run a lot better than what they did here with the Switch version of this Batman Arkham Trilogy. Because Arkham Knight can definitely run. I don't care what people say. You know, the Switch has done so much. I know that this is a heavier game in terms of the open world side, But the Switch has had so many games that are considered impossible, and to say that Batman Arkham Knight can't run good, look good, I feel like no, I don't believe that. I don't believe that, especially considering this is a native Switch version. Warner Brothers themselves said this, that these games are designed specifically for the Switch. This is not good. There is a lot of problems here. Immediately jumping in as Batman when you're playing Arkham Knight, I am immediately getting frame rate drops. And this is before we even get to the major problems of Batman Arkham Knight. And these are noticeable frame rate drops. Even with them removing the rain, like there's a little bit of rain in Batman Arkham Knight, there's still frame rate drops. You know, I thought that Batman Arkham Knight, when they removed the rain, that was going to really help the game look good, run good, all that good stuff on Nintendo Switch, but no. This game looks like horrible on Nintendo Switch and runs horrible for the Nintendo Switch. I'm good taking a graphical downgrade if we can have a locked frame rate, but this game does not have a locked frame rate the entire time that you're playing the game. It's like a surprise trying to figure out what frame rate you're going to be at when you run into an enemy or when you're driving the Batmobile. Let's get into the Batmobile. When you are driving the Batmobile, the game is just so unplayable. I'm sorry, but this is an unplayable version of Batman out there. This is one that you cannot play and need to avoid with how bad the Batmobile is in Arkham Knight. And the reason why I say you have to avoid it is because Batman Arkham Knight, that game is heavily focused on the Batmobile. A lot of people don't like Batman Arkham Knight because of how focused it is on the Batmobile. I thought Batman Arkham Knight was a really good game, and it might just be because I have a special connection to this game since it was my first PlayStation 4 game. But the Batman Arkham Knight, when you're running on the Batmobile, it is absolutely horrible. I don't even know how you can 100% this game with how bad the frame rate drops are. Because how are you supposed to do the racetracks when the game is dropping like 10 frames, 12 frames? Like there's times that the game's even freezing while you're driving through the Batmobile. In fact, the game actually crashed on me. I was only 15 minutes into the game. I didn't even do much because the things that I was doing in that game was like basic stuff, and the frames just go absolutely crazy that the game actually just has to crash. It just crashes, it kicks me out of the game. I'm sure if I continue playing the game and actually try to experiment more with the frame rate drops, I could make this game do a lot of crazy things, but I don't want to do that. I want to play Batman Arkham Knight on my Nintendo Switch. It's so annoying what they've done with this game. Now, I'm not a game developer. I made a tweet that's saying that Batman Arkham Knight can run on the Nintendo Switch because of the history of Nintendo Switch games that we've seen. Hogwarts Legacy is a game that should not be on Switch, but they've made it run good. They had it at a locked frame rate, looks somewhat good for a Switch game and third-party game. It was impressive what they did with that. In fact, I got a little hate from that tweet because there was somebody on there saying that you don't know, you need to be more knowledgeable on this stuff because you look at the PC version of Batman Arkham Knight, it ran absolutely poorly because of the amount of memory that it took, that type of stuff. And, you know, I think that's a fair comment to say, but this is where I get confused. And again, I'm not a game developer when I say this, so I might be really stupid what I'm about to say, but what confuses me is how this is made specifically for the Switch. This is not a thing that they ported over. Warner Brothers themselves made native Switch versions of these games. So we shouldn't even have to worry about problems like that unless Warner Brothers just flat out lied to us and they ported this without, you know, doing something with it. And not to mention, it is very weird to me because they spent a lot of time developing these games for the Switch. If we're going by rumors, and obviously rumors are not supposed to be real, you know, but considering how these rumors got everything right about what the Batman Arkham Trilogy was going to have on Nintendo Switch, I'm going to believe these rumors. This has been in development for 2 years. And obviously, I don't think Arkham City and Arkham Asylum is going to be as difficult to bring over to the Switch. It was Arkham Knight that was going to take the most development time. And if this is what they had with the 2 years of development time, this is not good. This is not good. I'm not a game developer, but this should not be happening. This should have been like peak Switch performance if they put that amount of time into a Switch version. This should have been like Hogwarts Legacy, in my opinion, with how they kept delaying that game to make it a good game. They delayed Batman Arkham Trilogy once this year, and they really should have delayed it into next year with how bad Arkham Knight was running. Because the reason why this game is $60, a majority of that is going towards Batman Arkham Knight. That's what they're paying for, basically. I also ran into some pop-in problems, like literally in the opening of the game where you're seeing Gotham City. I can literally see the pop-in happen. And I've also seen where vehicles will just disappear on the map. You could be looking from a distance, see a vehicle driving, and boop, it's gone. Because I guess the Switch can't handle it. But the pop-in in this game, it's bad, but it's not as bad as other games out there. But it's not something I expected to see within Batman Arkham Trilogy, because once again, the amount of time that was put into this, and once again, Warner Brothers saying that these are designed for the Switch specifically. Native for the Switch. It's incredibly disappointing to see that Batman Arkham Knight runs absolutely horrible on Nintendo Switch and has so many problems. I mean, oh my gosh. I feel so bad for people that are experiencing Batman Arkham Knight for the first time on Nintendo Switch, because Batman Arkham Knight is such a great game, and it's a good game. It needs to be played, but it does not need to be played on Nintendo Switch. You need to avoid Batman Arkham Knight on Nintendo Switch at all costs, even if Nintendo Switch is your only console, because it's unplayable. And I mean, I guess the company could run a patch and hopefully fix some of these problems. Like, I'm fine with the visuals if the visuals want to look that way, but we need to fix the frame rate at least. I would probably change my opinion if it wasn't for the frame rates, because the frame rate drops, they're unacceptable. This is one of the worst Switch games I've ever played in terms of frame rate drops. And that says a lot considering the amount of stuff we've had on the Switch, and a lot of bad Switch games on the Switch too. Batman Arkham City. Wow. Probably one of the most important video games to ever release. Because if it wasn't for Batman Arkham City, with how great that game was, we might not see a lot of the video games that we're getting today in terms of how the open world combat is of Batman Arkham, because that has been heavily influenced in a lot of superhero games today. In fact, we might have never actually gotten a lot of the superhero games that was released today if it wasn't for Batman Arkham City. Because let's look at it this way. The only really superhero games that was releasing regularly are Batman games and Spider-Man games. Now we're getting way more games, and we're actually getting regularly good Spider-Man games, like peak Spider-Man games, because of the Batman Arkham series. Particularly Arkham City, because everyone was talking about how great Arkham City was. We were seeing people that don't even really care about the superhero genre play Batman Arkham City and talk about how great that game was. This game did so many things. So I know it was very important to Warner Brothers and the company turned me up to get this on Nintendo Switch without any problems, because this is the one that everyone needs to play. And I'm here to say that there's no problems with Batman Arkham City on Nintendo Switch. It's just, you got that nasty taste of Batman Arkham Knight on Switch when you're playing Batman Arkham City. It's just, But Batman Arkham City looks amazing on Nintendo Switch. There was one problem that I had, that the game didn't load in properly. But other than that, after that was done, the game looked amazing. Game ran amazing. I didn't run into any frame rate drops. Textures look good. It was actually quite impressive to see, just because I was looking at this after looking at Batman Arkham Knight, and I was like, whoa, this looks really good. When in reality, it shouldn't be surprising that this looks good on Switch, because these are 360 games coming to Switch when it comes to Arkham City and Arkham Asylum. So I'm praising this pretty highly right now, but the reality is I shouldn't be surprised, because this isn't, like, I mean, I'm not a developer, but these are 360 games. This shouldn't be that difficult to bring over to the Switch, you know. But Batman Arkham City is a must-played game, and I'm glad that is on Switch. But the problem behind Batman Arkham City is you have to pay $60 for it, and part of that $60 that you're paying for is going to Batman Arkham Knight. So it's like, difficult situation there. Batman Arkham City is the best one out of the three in terms of how it runs, how it plays, because like I said, no frame rate drops. Only had one problem, which was the opening of the game. Then after that, nothing happened. Textures looked amazing. Peak game. Glad that it's on the Switch. It's just the problem is you're paying $60 and Batman Arkham Asylum. You know, we talked about Batman Arkham City being an important game, but I guess Batman Arkham Asylum is also an important game because it started the Batman Arkham games. It did something that a lot of people would be considered impossible at the time, which was making good licensed games, good superhero games. You know, that was something that was very rare at the time. Those type of games were considered cash grabs. And the Batman Arkham series was never a true-on cash grab. They made actual good games. So Batman Arkham Asylum, having that on Nintendo Switch is also really good. The interesting thing about Batman Arkham Asylum on Nintendo Switch is for some reason they've made it darker. If you look at the game and compare it to other platforms out there, especially the cutscenes, they made the lighting pretty noticeably darker. You're only gonna notice it when you look at it from other platforms out there, but it was kind of weird to see that happen, and I don't understand why they did that, because I think it should have been lit up a little bit more, because I think it looks better with the better lighting, but for some reason they made the lighting way darker in this, and it was weird. Kind of weird. It's funny, the last game that we're talking about in this review is the first game in the series. I guess that does not make sense at all, but you know, the reason why we did it this way is because everyone's curious about the Arkham Knight. When I was playing Batman Arkham Asylum on Nintendo Switch, something that I ran into that I was not expecting is I actually experienced frame rate drops throughout the whole game. They were nowhere near as bad as Batman Arkham Knight, of course, but it was noticeable. It wasn't making the game unplayable or anything, but again, it was noticeable. And not something I expected, considering that they're 360 PlayStation 3 games. This is not something we should be seeing, and again, I go back to the fact that these are made specifically for the Switch. They have nothing to do with Return to Arkham. These games are made for the Nintendo Switch hardware in mind. So all the problems that we've seen today is not something we really should be having, at least nowhere near as bad as what we experienced today. So Batman Arkham Asylum, to have those frame rate drops, it was annoying to see, but by no means it was not unplayable like the mess that Batman Arkham Knight was. There was no other problems with Arkham Asylum other than that. The game's still good. Great to have Arkham Asylum on the Switch. It's just an unfortunate situation with how this trilogy has been on Nintendo Switch. Let's get into the verdict. Should you buy Batman Arkham Trilogy for the Nintendo Switch? Obviously, one of the three games that we talked about, we talked very highly of how it was running on Nintendo Switch, that being Arkham City, and how great that game is. That game is a game that everyone, I think, should play, especially if you're a fan of superheroes or fans of the type of things that superhero games provide. That game is so good on so many levels. It's a very good game. But Batman Arkham Asylum, we shouldn't have been having problems with that game in terms of the frame rate, but we did have frame rate drops in that game. So really the only really good game out of this trilogy in terms of for the Switch in mind was Batman Arkham City. Arkham Asylum had a little bit of problems, but problems we shouldn't have. And then Arkham Knight's just unplayable. That's unplayable. You should not be playing Batman Arkham Knight on Nintendo Switch. So with all that in mind, no, you should not buy Batman Arkham Trilogy. Warner Bros. Is selling this for $60 right now, which is, again, ridiculous. I would be fine paying $60 if all three of the games that we talked about were like peak performance. And that's why I thought they were charging $60 because of the amount of time they put into this. But no, Arkham Knight is horrible on Switch. Arkham Asylum, like, it's good, but I run into the whole thing that I'm like, I shouldn't be experiencing frame rate drops on that. And then Arkham City Peak, that's great. You play the game for Arkham City. That's why I'm saying that this trilogy of games, I guess, can be worth it when this goes on sale for like $20, I guess. And obviously, I guess these games could be fixed in patches, but I don't understand why they didn't do that before. I don't know. This would be something to see what happens down the road, because I guess they could fix it. It's just, the problem is, this game already holds a lot of storage on my Nintendo Switch. Look at this. 50 gigabytes. I mean, I get you got 3 games on here, but come on. You guys could at least put some of it in cartridge. And I mean, I guess they did hook me up a little bit. They did put Batman Arkham Asylum fully on the cartridge. But they really should have done at least Arkham Knight, because that's the one that's holding the most storage there. I have a suggestion that could somewhat fix some of the problems that we're experiencing with the Batman Arkham Trilogy. Now, Turn Me Up and Warner Brothers, what they need to do is they need to sell all 3 games separately, because we should not have to pay $60 for this, because, again, a majority of this I am pretty sure is going towards Batman Arkham Knight, because that was the one that took the most development time to put on Switch. Most likely. I'm not a developer, but that's what I'm gonna guess here. We need to see these games released separately on the eShop. In fact, they kind of already have that system in play, they just haven't released it yet. If you look on the Nintendo eShop and you click on Batman Arkham Trilogy, you'll see that all 3 Batman games are listed separately. So what I'm suggesting is that Warner Brothers sells all 3 games separately on the eShop for $20 each. That will make things way better instead of having to pay $60 for this, because Arkham Knight's not worth the $60, and really the only 2 games that are what you guys should be paying for is Arkham Asylum and definitely Arkham City. Arkham Asylum has problems, but I know they'll get that fixed eventually. Arkham Knight is just unplayable. There's very few Switch games that I could say is unplayable, but Arkham Knight is unplayable. The fact that I got into a game crash, the fact that I got kicked out of the game, that I did the bare minimum to have the game crash on me, it's unplayable. You can't even 100% that game if you wanted to. So all things considering, you should not buy Batman Arkham Trilogy unless you can get this for $20, or you can get these games sold separately through the eShop. And I don't even like really promoting that idea, because that's promoting a digital game. You know how I am about my physical copies, but this is not worth it. I'm sorry, like, man, that game gives me just the, it is so frustrating, man, because I wanted these games to come out on Switch. Everything was looking bright for this to be really good on Nintendo Switch, and then we get this garbage, garbage, and my battery's about to die. That is great. It's disappointing. Batman Arkham Trilogy is one of the most disappointing things out there on Nintendo Switch, and honestly, probably more disappointing than Mortal Kombat 1, even though Mortal Kombat 1 looks way worse on Nintendo Switch, just because this really shouldn't have happened. It should not have ended up like this. It is so frustrating to see, and I don't know what they can do to fix it, because if they do fix it, why didn't they just delay it? I guess they really wanted this to come out for the Christmas season, is the reality here. It's truly a cyberpunk release, it kind of feels like, and I am so sad about it. So sad. This is really not something you should buy unless you can buy it for $20. That's the best I can say. And it's just so disappointing. I was so excited for this. This was supposed to be one of the greatest Switch ports out there. I keep calling it a port. It's not supposed to be a port. It's supposed to be native Switch games. Warner Brothers lied. They lied. And it's so surprising, because turn me up. I just thought they did pretty good with the Switch games out there. But we have been talking for way too much. I want to know how you guys are feeling about the Batman Arkham Trilogy Switch versions out there. Are you happy? Did you buy this? Were you gonna buy it and then you saw everything that came out about it and then canceled your pre-order? Because that's probably what I should have done, but I bought the game anyways. It's a cool cover, I guess. I mean, I'm so sad about it. I'm so sad. Because these games are so good, and to see that these games are treated like this on Nintendo Switch, it is so disappointing. Make sure to backslash that subscribe button, like the video, check out my Twitter, check out my Discord, check out my Instagram, check out whatever's in the description below. I'll see you guys in the next video.